Everyone thinks that power is money or weapons, but real power is when a person looks you in the eye and can no longer say no. I am not a president, not a general, not a tycoon. I am just a man who understood how people work and how to manage them. It started small. I learned to sense weakness, not physical, but mental. I could remain silent, and the person would already feel guilty. I could smile, and someone would quit. I said the right words, and people would leave their families, change their faith, sell their apartments. I did not shout. I whispered. That was enough. I was not interested in money. I needed more. Control. Complete. Absolute. I wanted to see how the strong become weak, how the independent lose their will. I wanted to make sure that I could be their God. At first, I played with individual people. I wrote to them from fake accounts. I threw in ideas, false memories, fears. I convinced one man that his wife was cheating on him. He found the evidence himself. There was none, but he saw what he wanted to see. Thanks to me, they divorced. She tried to commit suicide. I got a taste. Euphoria. It was a drug. Later, I created my first development group. Young, ambitious, with problems. I was their friend, mentor, in fact, a conductor. I convinced them that they were the chosen ones, that only I could save them, that the whole world was against them, and I was the only one who would tell the truth. A year later, I had 67 people. They came to me for advice, money, the meaning of life, and I gave it, and then I took it back. One guy sold his car because I said it was holding back his growth. A girl abandoned her child because mother is a role imposed by society. People sacrifice themselves voluntarily because I spoke beautifully. I created an app under the guise of a motivational program. It collected data, biometrics, location, behavior. I analyzed and managed it in real time. For example, in the morning they would receive a notification, "Today you must let go of the past." And in the evening, they would burn old photos, delete accounts, quit their jobs. They thought it was their choice, but it was my experiment. I learned to make people cry with one phrase, to instill guilt through silence. I would write, "You let me down," and a person would not sleep for 3 days. One tried to jump from a roof. I stopped him, only to push him again later. I did not feel guilt, only pride. I was creating a new model of society where there are no individuals, there are roles, where there is no will, there is a team, where it does not matter who you are. What matters is whether you listen to me. But then, it was not enough for me. I began to feel bored. People were no longer surprising. Their reactions became predictable. Their resistance, pathetic. I did not want to just control them. I wanted them to believe, for them to worship, for them to live and die not by command, but by conviction that I am the truth. I didn't just need power, I needed a legend, eternity. I started introducing new ideas about transforming consciousness, about cleansing from the dirt of the old world. I hinted that their bodies were interfering with the spirit, that their reality was an illusion. I performed rituals. I gave them new names, a new philosophy. I started building a cult. I dreamed of doing more than creating an army of obedient ones. I wanted to change their essence, to raise new people, my people. I started picking up children, little ones, format their consciousness from scratch. Do you think it's impossible? People gave me their children voluntarily, but like everyone who climbs too high, I began to lose control. One of my people, an IT guy, realized what I was doing. He entered the application code, found hidden log files, realized that I was watching everyone, their dreams, habits, fears. But he didn't run away. He stayed, pretended that everything was the same. And then, at one of the meetings, he turned on the recording. My voice, my orders. You are no longer a son. Forget it. There are no parents. There is only you and I. Only I am your root. The hall froze. The looks changed. For the first time, there was no faith in the eyes. They began to leave, one by one. Someone in silence, someone screaming. One hit me in the face. I did not resist. I already knew. This is the end. Now I am alone. without a network, without students, without power, without a legend. But inside me, a thought lives. What if we start over? Another city, a new story, new names. Because I am not a man, I am a virus. I penetrate not bodies, but hearts. And if you listen to the end, it means that I am already in you. I was destroyed from the outside, but inside I have only just begun to truly form. A week of silence, the silence of the phone, not a single notification, no letters, no hostility, no worship, emptiness. But she didn't scare me. I sat in the dark and analyzed my mistakes, not emotionally, but logically, coldly. I realized I was too visible, too direct. People were afraid of the scale. I was going to the goal with a bright torch, and I needed a smoldering fire, unnoticeable, one that gets through the cracks. So I changed my face, my name, my speech. I became kinder, softer, more human. I put on the mask of the ordinary and returned to the network. This time, not as a leader, as a victim. I created an account of a person who suffers, who is not understood, who was betrayed. I became a mirror for those who feel lonely. And you know what? They love me even more. In the comments they wrote to me, "You are like a voice inside me. You understand like no one else. You must lead." I answered, "Well, number I am just one of you." It worked better than any hypnosis. This time I did not create a group. I created a network. Thousands of people around the world, each in their own home. I did not tell them what to do. I simply asked the right questions. What if the pain was given to you for a reason? Have you ever felt that you are not from here? You also see that this world is rotten, right? And they themselves looked for answers. With my words, with my methods. I began to give tasks. Turn off your phone for a day. Disappear for everyone. Hear yourself. Break the last connections. Start from scratch. Build your truth, your reality. They do not hold you back anymore. It was no longer a cult. It was a movement. Without a name, without a face. I became a virus without symptoms. I could not be caught. I could not be torn out of their heads. People began to tattoo the phrases I wrote, create pages with my thoughts. They did not know who I was, but they knew that I was the only one who did not lie. And I knew, now they would do anything, without an order, without direct speech, only because I lived in their pain and became its voice. But this was not enough. I wanted them to do more than just worship. I wanted them to start changing the world so that they would destroy the old and build the new, according to my plans. A world where there is no false morality, where there are no prohibitions, where truth is will, and the will is me. I began to whisper to those who were already on the edge. Do you want to be free? Then let go of everything. Absolutely everything. Don't be afraid of pain. Be afraid of chains. Someone stopped talking. Someone went into the forest. Someone blew up their house. The news called it a surge of spiritual crises. But no one knew it was me. I didn't kill anyone. I just gave permission. Power no longer interested me. I was above power. I became an idea. But even that was not enough. I wanted eternity. I wanted my word not to disappear even after death. So that even in new generations there would be those who would feel, I know you, I heard your voice, I follow you. So I started leaving codes, hidden phrases, in songs, in blogs, in children's books. Do you think this is a joke? Now you are reading this text. Do you think this is just a scary story? But maybe this is the program? Because I do not ask, I do not convince, I simply sow. And you are already the shoot. Do you feel goosebumps? Do not leave. This is only the beginning. People sacrifice themselves voluntarily because I spoke beautifully. But even that was not enough for me. I was no longer satisfied with managing dozens. I wanted hundreds, thousands, scale. I wanted not just group members to listen to me, but entire districts, schools, hospitals. I started to introduce my people. I called it sewing. One of them became a teacher. He taught children critical thinking, but in reality, he taught them to doubt their parents, the school, the system. He said, The truth is what your inner voice says. And if you are not sure, ask an elder. And I was always the elder. Another became a doctor. He prescribed strange psycho diets, refusal of communication, refusal of sleep, complete zeroing of the personality. This broke people. And then I came, with supposed healing, with words, with my hands, with my voice. People began to pray to me, not figuratively, literally. I created an entire doctrine. It was called the Path of Inner Ashes. A person must burn all the past in himself, erase his personality, become an empty vessel, and I will pour a new essence into it. People wrote manifestos, got tattoos with my words. One guy carved on his chest, "I am the poverty that he will fill." I began to feel like more than just a manipulator. I felt like the Messiah. I needed more. I started building a temple. From the outside, it looked like a wellness center, spa, meditation, training. Inside, it was an obedience lab. Secret rooms, audio surveillance, light pulses. I tested how quickly you can erase memory, how to bring a person to catatonia in 30 hours, how to break the psyche and then reassemble it according to my patterns. I no longer waited for them to come to me. I found them myself, lonely, vulnerable, unhappy. I came to them and said, "You feel that this world is not yours. I can give you another." And they came. But even this was not enough. I didn't just want power. I wanted immortality, to not be forgotten, to have my name forever. And then I decided to do something that even I was afraid of. I created a ritual of the last will. Once a month, one of my students had to sacrifice themselves, symbolically or literally, cut their skin, deprive themselves of something important. One cut off a finger, another voluntarily sat in a coffin for 3 days. They proved their loyalty. And you know what? They thanked me for it. But like everything in this world, even my empire cracked. One of the followers couldn't take it anymore. He didn't just run away. He published everything: leaks, videos, audio recordings, screenshots of my correspondence, internal documents, surveillance protocols, photos of scars, persuasion schemes. The world saw a monster. The police came for me. But it was too late. I was already different. Not in body, not in voice. I became a virus. Hundreds of people still live by my patterns. Send out my teachings, rewrite my texts in their own name. I can be destroyed physically. But the meaning? It has already disintegrated. Now I sit in silence. A cell, a solitary confinement. Walls. But you are reading this, so I still live. In you, in your mind. Do you think you can resist? Then answer me. Why are you still reading? Time has become an abstraction. Only shadows spreading across the rooms remind us that the world still exists outside the cells. But they were not there. They came for me not to destroy, but to liberate. My cult was not born for destruction. It was created to revive the world in a new form, to remake everyone who dares to look into their eyes and see in themselves everything they did not want to see. They call me Ash. This name is now imprinted on every step, in every letter, in every prayer of those who are devoted to me. Ashes are not just ashes. They are a spark that will burn everything around. But this is not just a fire that we see. These are sparks inside each of us. Sparks that can start to burn or disappear forever, but they will not be able to return back. I sat in a cell that weaved time into a net of vanity and zeros, and in this only space that was left to me, I understood. They had long ago filled all the voids left behind me. Fruits grow, but not on trees. They penetrate the fabric of society, bite into minds, and begin to form a new reality. When you see this process, you understand. You become one of these fruits. You become what you created. But in this crystal, in this image, you disappear. I waited. I knew that everything I did was not in vain. It was necessary. My idea was not to suppress or destroy. My goal was to recreate the world. I created a new consciousness. Those who were near were no longer those who had been before. We became faceless. We became eternal. They came to me. It was predictable. The night had not deceived me. They came for the ashes to restore a culture of destruction. I knew it would be like this, that I was no longer me. I was not a leader, not just a man. I was a philosopher, and I came to them with the truth. Through the cameras, through the voice in the speakers, through hidden internet forums, they found those who agreed with my theory, those who had survived the emptiness, those who understood that hiding was not a path, but a trap. These were not children. No, these were adults. They followed me because they saw the world in ashes. They saw their faults, their cracks that I had awakened. At first, they were loners. There were thousands of these loners, but they gathered. They sought each other out, even if it was only a look in the eye, even if it was only a gesture. And then they appeared at the gates. I was ready. The guards, too weak. The sponsors, they were already part of the fruit. Every person who worked in this place was connected to my goal, even if they didn't know it themselves. When I left the cell, the atmosphere was like an eclipse. Everyone around was like a puppet, and I was their guide. My ideology, my faith, my influence, it wasn't just magic, it was reality. I saw their faces. I saw how each of them was ready to start their path, the path of liberation. We made our way through the corridors. Each step was like a dot that became a line, and this line became a road. The walls were covered with symbols, signs written in blood. It wasn't just destruction, but a complete rewriting of reality, and now this reality was in my hands. My cult became great. I was not the one who sits in the shadows. I was the one who dictates. I was the light. And the moment came when I realized, I don't want to just be in the center. I want the world itself to be in the center of me. I was not just a person. I was the idea, and I was the universe. I knew that if I continued, they would follow me, like a flame after the wind. That was my plan. They were my hands, but not just hands, thoughts. I controlled their desires. I led them into a future where they could not go alone. But with that, we were heading towards destruction. We were heading towards disaster. And then the real game began. I was not just a creator. I was a creator of death. Then I told them, it's time. And they went. Everywhere, everywhere. They did not ask. They just went. They broke through walls. They destroyed systems. They were my hands and I was their heart. Huge waves of protests, acts of violence, destroyed buildings and streets. All this was the result. But this was only the beginning. When night fell, I stood on the roof of the tallest building in the city. I watched. I knew that I was no longer just a man. I was a legend, the one who destroyed everything in order to become eternal. And now each of us has become part of a new story, a story where every voice is already my voice. Every thought is mine. Every step is mine. We became part of something we could not understand. We became infinite. And so standing at the top, I looked at the world that was mine. I knew that everything that was happening was just part of a larger plan, where the ashes became the basis for a new reality. And this world was incredible, as was my role in it. But suddenly I felt a strange sensation, as if a shadow, cold and dense, began to slowly fill the space. I could not understand where it came from. This shadow, like something unknown and unpredictable, broke through all my defense mechanisms. Those who followed me were still walking, not seeing that their steps had become repeated. I heard their steps, their voices, but they sounded like an echo, like echoes of those who were long lost. But something alerted me, and then I understood. The world I created was not mine. It was only a mosaic of my own thoughts, my fears and desires. My hand, the one that controlled their actions, was not the most important. My cult was only a part of what moved this world. And then, when I was almost ready to celebrate my victory, I felt something begin to break out of the shadows, from the very essence of what I had created. My gaze fell on the sky. It suddenly became black, like a night without a moon. The ash in the air rustled like giant wings. And then I realized that what I had not taken into account was even greater than I could imagine. As soon as I stepped forward, the ground beneath my feet disappeared, and I found myself in emptiness. It was not a fall. It was like the moment when you realize that you have never been on Earth, that you have always been in a vacuum. alone and with only one single question in your head. Who really was Ash? And this silence, this absorption, began to grow like a black hole, absorbing everything around, even me. Someone had come for me, for the one who had created this world. I wasn't ready to see who it was, and maybe no one was, but they were already waiting.